It was hardly surprising last November when Donald Trump got only 14% of the vote in Boston, and his figures were even worse among people of color. But as leadership changes in the White House, our guest is calling on people of color to approach the new president not as an adversary, but as a business person. And in his many years of work in violence prevention, our guest has put a focus on the powers of enterprise to explain how it might work in the era of Donald Trump. Is Rodney Dailey. Thank you very much for being with us, Rodney.
Yes. Well, should I just jump right in?
Well, I want to ask you about the powers of enterprise as you used it with Gang Peace, because that's got to be part of the equation. So tell me what you learned from that.
Well, as an entrepreneur, when I was doing Gang Peace and Street Peace programs, my goal was to create entrepreneurship programs and business that could sustain the program itself, which it would have done. But we always were taking money out of the businesses to keep the program going. And then it was kind of confusing to the population of funders, saying, well, he's got recording studios and he's got record labels and he's got, candy stores, all candy stores. And so why does he need us to fund the program any longer? Well, that would have been the case if we were able to get those programs to run at least 5 years successfully, to be able to generate the kind of money that would not take from the operations of those businesses, but from the profits of the businesses to operate the programs. But it was a good try. Didn't work. It worked, but it didn't work in respect of us being solely sufficient or solely relying upon the businesses. When we talk about Trump, we have to look at the fact that he didn't become president because of popularity. He didn't become president because he was a mayor, a good mayor somewhere, a good governor somewhere. People knew him and he was able to help people. He became president because he did the numbers. And because as a good businessman, you're going to do the numbers. You're going to do the forecast. And what was the numbers? There's about 323 some odd million people in the United States, okay? Out of that, there's about 42 million African Americans. Out of the 42 million African Americans who could vote, that are registered to vote, we're probably talking about maybe 20 million or so. Same when we talk about Hispanics. There's about 50 some odd million Hispanics in the United States. When we look at who can vote, who's eligible to vote, that are of age to vote, we're talking about maybe another 25, 28 million people. And then when we go and look at another 60 million people that may be white Democrats, okay, who are eligible to vote, then out of the 60 million, we're going to have maybe about 30 some odd million that are eligible to vote. That's about, 100,000 some odd people. Now we look at another 150, 180 some odd folks that are Republicans, white Americans. Out of that, if we look at who's eligible to vote because they're of age and they're registered to vote, we're probably talking about 90, 95 million people. So he did the numbers and he became president. And that's why a lot of people that see that he's president don't agree with his policies and stuff, because he didn't become president because of his policies. He became president because he did the numbers, because he's a businessman. And so he's still doing business. We see all these entertainers being called to his office. Remember now, he's at home in Trump Tower, right? It costs the Secret Service $1 million a day to Secret Service him. They've rented a whole floor to do that. He owns the tower. So what does that say? He's making $1 million a day to stay at home. At the end of the week, that's $7 million. People forget about that. They said it and then they didn't say it anymore. At the end of the month, about $35 million we as taxpayers are paying this president to be at home right now. So when he's calling in these entertainers, here's his thinking. He's marketing. He's still marketing his name. When he calls in Steve Harvey, he calls in Kanye West, he believes they have a following. And if they see him with them, Don King, if they see them with him, then some of that following is going to warm up to Trump. So he's still marketing. We have to stop whining, and we have to put business plans together that will help us get where we want to be. Right now, his business plan for urban community, which we call as the underclass, because we got the high class, middle class, low class, then we got underclass down here where people are doing anything they can to make money. They want to take, just like with the crime bill, stop and frisk and fill up the prisons again, because it's business to them. Those seats of those prisons need to be filled, or the prison sues the state. So we have to come up with a different plan. We need economists like Julius Wilson from Harvard and all of the economists coming up with a different business plan to offer him, because that's all he understands is a business plan. You know what I mean? That's why he's surrounding himself with all these successful business billionaires, because he's a businessman. He doesn't care about, he's not a social worker. He's not some kind of person that Gandhi or somebody that cares about people. He cares about making money and doing business. So we got to offer him business plans in these next 4 years that's going to work for us.
This is BNN News, and we're talking with former violence prevention strategist and entrepreneur currently, Rodney Dailey. What about the way to negotiate with Trump? Should this be individuals from one community doing it? Or should we be talking about a lot of people in the community getting together with other constituencies?
We need think tanks. We need some of the best minds, the professors that are economists at these colleges, at Harvard, at Northeastern University, at Harvard Business School. We need individuals out of Howard. We need individuals from Morehouse that are business educated individuals, like I mentioned, Professor Julius Wilson, who have written books about when work disappears, so we can put together a business plan that will be another choice besides stop and frisk, will be another choice to uplift the economic development in urban communities. See, the simplistic understanding, in my opinion, of how Trump sees this is almost like if you and I were having a party and somebody snuck in. Well, his idea is like, get everybody out and you come through the front door with your ticket. And that's why he's thinking about this thing of putting people out the country and you come back and show you can this and that. At the end of the day, that's not going to work. Too many people got guns and too many people are going to run around. They're not going to catch them. It's going to be crazy. But at the end of the day, that's the business plan they have. We have to offer a different business plan. So we need the best minds on this. We need the professors that are teaching economic understanding and stability, that understands how and why we got here in the first place, why there is even an underclass that people don't talk about, but they've written policies to. The policies say that the underclass will never pay taxes, will never contribute to society's upward mobility. And in order to get a person from underclass to lower class, that's a ladder that as you're trying to climb it, it's constantly being poured into with negative things that keep you trapped down in the underclass. So his answer is clear it all out. We'll get people out of there. We'll arrest them. We'll deport them. We'll clear. It's like cutting the grass, kind of situation. So we have to come with a different plan.
I got to ask you about the moment that we're in right now, because there are a lot of people, the resentment is not so much against Trump himself, as it is against the Republican strategy. They did not want to do business with Barack Obama. They just refused. They tried to stonewall everything he did, and it worked.
It did, and part of it has everything to do with this racist. I call it institutionalized racism. That says, look, we want people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. They don't even have any boots. We know that. So what we're going to do is we're going to put them in prison because that's good business. Those beds cost $48,000 a year in some cases, and so whoever is running those businesses will make money. They did the crime bill to get it started with $90 billion to increase the police and build prisons, if you remember, and now those prisons are built. They're not going to make those prisons go empty. They're not going to let that go out of business. They're going to keep that business running. What we have to do, because we're some of the smartest people on the planet, we got to get to the professors at the colleges, get these think tanks going so that we can create an alternative business plan, a business plan that will generate cash flow. Now, he promised certain people in the country, the ones that got him voted in, part of that 90 million, even though there was only something like 133 million people that voted all together, but it was enough to get him in, he was going to get them business. So he's going to go to try and push West Virginia's opening up of their coal manufacturing and plants all around that can hire those people. But for the inner cities that are in the city, New York, Chicago, he's going to make an example out of Chicago. I believe it may even be martial law over there in a second, right after he's inaugurated on Friday, so that he can show that, listen, this is what's going to work. Stop and frisk, running after what he so-called calls the bad guy, arresting them all, putting them in prison. That's going to clear things out a bit, and then we can work with what's left. That is not going to work. That's not going to work. And at the end of the day, yes, 750 murders in Chicago is ridiculous. It's crazy. And 5,000 some odd shootings. But we have alternative business understanding, alternative that says, look, if we get business, okay, which is what he understands, if we get a business plan together with Professor Julius Wilson, other economists at Morehouse, other economists at Northeastern, we can put a plan together that does not call for arresting and deporting these communities and then starting over fresh and new with whoever he thinks is going to live there. That's not the answer.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Rodney Dailey.
Yes.